Gracias por acompañarnos en una nueva emisión de Sentados a la Mesa Podcast, un espacio creado para sentarnos contigo a la mesa y traer herramientas y soluciones para que tu familia vuelva al diseño original.
Okay, hello everybody. Hello, our Hispanic community. Today I have an important guest sharing with me about innovation in education. We're not only going to be talking about home education, we're going to be talking about microschooling, about what a support group is, a co-op is, and to touch on these topics, I have invited our guest, Lauren Gravel from VELA. So welcome, Lauren. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for joining us to this podcast. I want people to learn a little bit about you. So I have here that you lead the implementation of management for VELA investment program, and you're a fan of lifelong learning, engagement, and you're genuinely thrilled about learning. And you're excited to use your background in philanthropy. I had the pleasure to meet you at VELACon this year, and we're here to share with our community what's happening in education and how VELA is supporting and promoting that creativity that is being born in the household, basically, through parents. So welcome again, and let us know a little bit about yourself, Lauren.
Yeah.
Where do you live? Where do you come from? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, those are great questions, and I'm really happy to kind of start the conversation out talking about that. So I live in a little tourist town in West Michigan on the shores of Lake Michigan. Born and raised there. Never thought I'd land there, and here I am there. But went to public schools my entire life, left for college, went to a public university, came home, and started working in philanthropy right away, in community philanthropy, and working on providing funding for education and youth initiatives within my local county. And always liked learning. Went, like I said, to public schools. Was advanced in my elementary years, and so was isolated a lot in the hall, reading with a peer because we already knew all of the reading that was being taught. So instead of being in with the class and helping, we were isolated. And I would just call my mom every day to go home. I was bored. I didn't want to be there. My grandma worked for the public schools, so I had the privilege of getting textbooks and things like that. And so that was a hobby for me, was to pretend to be a teacher to myself with all of those materials. And so I think that kind of spiraled into reflection when I was a professional in philanthropy and giving dollars to public schools for additional support programs, and reading was one, and saw how different reading was being taught than my experience was, and realized education should be individualized, and we should be working to make sure each kid has the best fit and path for them, and it's not one size fits all. And so that really kind of spurred my brain to think about what else was out there, and stumbled upon VELA. And here we are. I'm approaching 3 years at VELA, leading their grant and investment programs, and just have the privilege now of interacting with founders like yourself, and hearing all of the amazing things that are happening across the nation in terms of innovation, and parents that are just doing it themselves and figuring it out and making sure their kids have the best fit possible.
Yeah, I'm excited because I see innovation is definitely happening. I don't think the education system will go back to where it was. Parents are really taking the lead, and we are heading towards new programs, new ways of education. This just began recently, and there's a lot of parents jumping into this field, and I'm happy to be part of your community because I am really inspired by the creativity of those parents and educators also that have decided to do something about the problems that they have always seen, like you mentioned. I mean, these are no hidden secrets. we all have seen some things that don't work. And here in Transition, we truly believe that education is a design, and you can design a very unique learning path for each student to propel their God-given purpose. So thank you for sharing that little piece of your personal experience. And let's share it with the community. Particularly our community is Hispanic, so they don't know much about VELA. I would love for you to introduce VELA to them. What do you do? Where are you heading? What do you see happening?
Yeah, this is great. So VELA is a leading community of entrepreneurs providing alternatives to conventional schooling. We're based in the United States, so we support folks in the United States, whether that's a parent wanting something different, an educator wanting something different. They're in the system. They want to do something different. That's what we're looking at. And then we also have folks like yourself, where I think you're kind of an ecosystem builder too, and providing supports and services to other founders that want to start something different, or helping parents realize that this is an option. Public school might work for some kids, but it certainly doesn't work for everybody. And so how are we making sure that options are out there? At VELA, we catalyze a vibrant alternative education ecosystem and really want to empower parents to lead their children's educational journey. And then founders providing educational solutions that respond to the unique values, priorities, and educational practices desired by families, which may be very different in Hispanic families than some of the other founders that we support. So really excited to be able to share this and share our work with a different demographic.
Thank you. Definitely, culture does play a key role in how we educate and approach education, even from the home. How parents see education really differs from country to country, from culture to culture. So you're very open to learn from all of these people. I saw that in the conference this year in Washington, how the leaders there, they all came from different demographics, from different maybe cultures or even age brackets too. I even saw a girl that had something going on, and she was on the stage sharing about her networking app. That was very, very powerful. Thank you for creating that space. I think you're allowing a lot of creatives to come on board and be heard. That doesn't mean that they're going to be endorsed immediately, but it's good to have a stage where all this creativity pops up, and then give it some shape and form to make it doable, also affordable for those parents that are already deciding not to send their kids to public school or to follow the conventional school system. So besides, obviously, VELA supports financially, but I would like you to share how you build that community. You have those events that you run, for example, in South Florida. I've been to one of those. You have now a new app that is available to people. So let's share with the community a little bit of that, how they can become part of the community.
Yeah, so for a long time, VELA was a funder. I think we're still seen as a funder, but really wanting to shift away from being just a funder. There are almost 3,000 founders in our community, and yes, they get access to early capital to help seed their learning environments. They have a demand and they're ready to start something. There's funding available for that, but I think what is more beneficial than the funding is this access to a thriving community of other founders and entrepreneurs, connections to resources and support, localized communities, all of those things that we hear so often. And I'm sure you heard it at VELACon. I'm sure you feel it. I feel like I'm on an island doing this work. There's nobody else doing this work. And then you get into the VELA network and you're not on an island anymore. There are people across the country that are willing to share resources, ideas, help you. It's not a competition. Everybody genuinely believes in the same thing and really wants to help each other and help kids find the best fit for them.
So Lauren, tell me, in that endeavor that you have at VELA of creating that community nationwide, you have developed a tool that is called the Mighty Networks, and you were sharing with me backstage what that was and the upgrades you're doing to it. Can you go into that?
Yeah. So as of today, maybe 2 hours ago, we just relaunched an application to join VELA's Founder Network. So we refer to our network as the Founder Network. We know not everybody thinks that they're a founder. They might be somebody who's running a well-established learning environment, but we still, for our purposes, call them a founder. And so we just launched this application to join the Founder Network without receiving funding, which is really exciting. We think that there is so much rich value in the Founder Network and the individuals that are in there and the knowledge that they have. They're the experts doing this work. It's not me. It's not the rest of the VELA team. The founders are the ones that hold the knowledge. And so how can we continue to build that up and build a community where it's full of knowledge sharing, resources, all of that. So right now, you can apply to just be part of the Founder Network. And we're really looking at a vision and values and principles alignment to VELA, which I can share in a minute, kind of what our founding and leading principles are. But really, we're looking at, do you align with who VELA is, where we think education is going, what this looks like? And then if you're admitted to the Founder Network, then you get access to apply for a micro grant. You get access to other founders that might be running a micro school, a nature-based program, somebody who might be in California but has some really great insight that somebody in Florida could implement, or New York City. There's a community in West Michigan where I live that is full of VELA founders. So really all over the country and U.S. territories as well. So we have some Puerto Rico founders and some in the Virgin Islands, I believe, but all just sharing the knowledge and supporting each other and making it feel like you're not alone on an island trying to start something that's different, that goes against the status quo, and really just providing that peer-to-peer support.
So can you share maybe a few examples of those different ways in which founders are bringing solutions? Because there's a huge variety. There's co-ops, there's micro schools, there's support programs, there's just weekend program. I saw this in Washington at your conference this year. There's different approaches to bringing solutions. Can you share some of those so our audience can get a grasp of what's happening in education?
Yeah, and I think at VELA we're pretty agnostic to curriculum, the way programs are implemented. Like I said, we're not the expert, so we would say however you want to, whatever's best for you, your family, your community. And I would also share that there's not a typical VELA founder, so I'll kind of share what we're seeing and kind of what we define as a learning environment and ecosystem builder, but that's purely our definition. But there's not really a typical VELA founder, and that's what we think the beauty of the community is how dynamic and diverse it is. The founders within the VELA network differ across lines of race, class, politics, ideology, and more, and they support learners in families that are in metro areas, suburban, rural, virtual communities, kind of you name it. It's a wide array of individuals, but we have kind of two categories that we put founders in. And the first one, and where a majority of our founders are operating small learning environments. And these small learning environments, whether it's a co-op, a micro school, a pod, an unschool setting, self-directed learning environment, they creatively reimagine time, space, and labor to serve learners that are looking for something different, an alternative to traditional schooling. So not in the public charter or traditional private space. That's not where we're focused. There's other funding opportunities for that and other networks. We're really in that for students that are not enrolled in those settings. But micro schools, so small learning environments that.
Okay, and what do you think, how do you think homeschooling has influenced all of this? Because there was a previous movement, there's a lot of homeschooling community out there for many years now that are seeing the innovation in education, and we knew this from a while ago, and now we're seeing all this dramatic change. We are celebrating it. We're very happy as homeschoolers. How do you think homeschooling has influenced this innovation in education?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely played a role, and showing what's possible out there and letting families decide the education that they want for their child, really leaning into valuing parents' decisions and how they want things to operate in their family. And so I think that's really helped spur all of this innovation. I think, we had a pandemic that made a lot of this happen, but it's continuing. We're seeing growth outside of that. And I think families just want something different for their kids.
Absolutely.
It maybe worked for them. Maybe it wasn't the best option, but they just know that there's something different, and they may not have the answer, but there's somebody in their community that probably does, and can probably help them figure out what that fit is.
Right. So to all the families that are following us and hearing this, know that if you're a parent and you have a creative idea, there's networks to join. There's a community, a flourishing community that you can tap into. Whoever is listening to us from home, and the mother that had maybe designed a creative way of teaching chemistry or math or something that is just on a notebook, bring it out. This is the right time to start bringing those creative ideas on paper and see the potential they have, and maybe reaching and serving more around your area, and even nationwide. You never know. Creatives are always sketching and drafting and keeping their ideas on record somehow. And I see a big opportunity. I've been homeschooling for 13 years, but I went to school private and public. I went to the conventional system, but now, 13 years after I've been homeschooling my own children and become a leader in the Hispanic community, I see an opportunity for dramatic change in education that I have never seen before. And I think we should, all of those who like to innovate, step ahead, step in front of these opportunities that are just coming our way, thinking about the future generations. How do we want to raise the future generation? How education can play a very crucial and decisive role in the way we're going to be shaping society in years to come. So this is a message for all parents, and you're going to have the information from VELA, from Lauren. Besides supporting homeschoolers, as you heard, they do support other kind of projects. We are part of the Founders Network, and we're very happy to have you on our side and see how we can grow in the Hispanic community, filling out those gaps that we have always seen. So, Lauren, let's continue a little bit with the stories. I was asking you about stories that maybe you can recall that have really impacted you as director in VELA. These stories that stand out to you. Can you share one of those? So maybe we can encourage some parents to step in.
Yeah, I think there are so many. And, in my role, since I started almost 3 years ago, have read every single application that comes through the door, whether it's a micro grant, whether it's a different funding opportunity that we might have had available at the time. I've read every single application. And so honestly, they kind of start to blur together, but there are some really great examples of founders that are just doing the work. I think it's maybe more helpful if I can share an example, but I think there's some really interesting work that VELA has done around kind of motivations for parents. So I think maybe it's helpful if I also share why some other families and parents have decided to start alternatives to conventional learning
Absolutely.
that may spur innovation. But I think there's, a lot of really great examples. There is an example in my community I'll just give that's really top of mind for me right now. So Michigan's a very pro-public education state, and there are lots of great schools. I grew up in a county with fantastic public schools, which is very fortunate. But there is also a rich homeschooling community in West Michigan, primarily faith-based, but there are other families who are not looking for a faith-based education. And so there are two that I know of. So there are maybe three. So if there are more, let me know. But private or not private, there are lots of private schools, but those are also faith-based. There are three, what I would say are micro schools in West Michigan that are non-faith-based. One is started by two educators who worked together in various education settings, public schools, private schools, and always said, someday we'll have our own school. Someday we'll get there. And that someday was a couple of years ago, where they opened up a learning environment that is maxed out to capacity. They're educators. They know how to do the education. They've figured out the business side, right? They are operating summer camps in the summer for their students to bring in additional dollars to help with their revenue. And they've hired teachers that they've worked with. And I sat at an event that they hosted to really bring awareness to what's happening outside of public, private, and charter schools. Michigan also has a lot of charter schools. So, and people were skeptical. What do you mean about this? And you just I heard a parent whose child goes there, his wife is a teacher there now. And he said, I didn't know if this was going to be the right fit for my child. We found the right fit for our other child, but I'm not sure about this. And he just speaks so highly of the experience his family has had at this micro school, that their child is thriving. It is absolutely the right environment. So I think that, just that little dose of skepticism that, I don't know, and he is now just a champion for a different way of educating and finding the best fit for, the individual learner. So I think that's kind of one example. And there are many just like that, of teachers who wanted to start something and just figured out how to do it and has figured out how to grow it in a way that is sustainable
Sorry to cut you off, Lauren. I was just going to chip in the fact that what we see on our side is that parents are experiencing some sort of freedom right now. Freedom to choose different models and not be constrained to the traditional and conventional systems that we were so used to. And by the way, obviously, by analyzing the fruit of those conventional systems, we're all questioning, well, things have to be improved. We have to do something about this. We don't want our kids to be part of that situation that we're living around the country and in other countries as well. So what I saw in, again, the conference this year, what I hear when I talk to other founders is this sense of being free to bring creative approaches to learn. For me, it's very important that parents understand that learning is a process and it's not just putting information ahead of your child to memorize. So what I've seen is that these founders and parents and homeschooling parents know this better than anybody else, is that we focus on the learning experience, creating those ecosystems at home. Now you're talking about obviously micro schools, which is another option, and co-ops and all of these. But I am seeing that now, after many years, parents are realizing that the learning can happen in different ways and different forms, different from what they were used to. And that's huge, because in the end, what we like to happen, first is that the child knows who they are, to know their potential, but then that they learn the necessary information that they're going to need to hone their skills and to become good at what they're called to do. And that doesn't happen in four walls and in front of a chalkboard. It happens with experience. And what you have been mentioning, what we do also in transition, is to bring experiences, to create another kind of learning environment. So I would like to ask you that. What do you think a creative, innovative environment or ecosystem should have, starting at home, but then just giving some tools to parents to start breaking the mold? What do you think we should be doing as educators, as parents, to promote an ecosystem where learning happens naturally, is not forced, and where we allow the creative side of our kids to flourish? What do we need to include on our daily basis or at home? What are these microschooling programs doing?
Yeah, I think microschools, everything operates so different. So there's not one size fits all for a microschool. I think one of my other favorite examples is a homeschooling mom who said, baking, that's education. It's math, it's measuring, it's science, it's all of this. So just finding the learning in your day-to-day activities. You want to learn about butterflies, let's do this, and really letting your child, figuring out what fits with your child's interests, all of these things. And just, I think you talked about how I'm such a big lifelong learner and embrace that. It's really what learning opportunities are out there. There's so many things so many solutions that you can piece together a package that helps your child learn, that isn't you teaching them 8 hours a day, right? So there are lots of things that you can find that are catered to interests of child, and just start somewhere. Start with something if you're feeling like you need to kind of begin.
Right. So we're coming to an end of this interview, Lauren, but I would like to ask you, what are the plans within 5 years? What is VELA doing or planning for the community? Not only the Hispanic community, but in general, for these founders, for these parents that are breaking the mold.
Yeah, we are in the midst of a 3-year plan right now, and that includes really, you referenced Mighty Networks and kind of the online community we have there. You've talked about VELACon. That was such a great success. There's VELACon content on Mighty Networks, which we're really excited about, but really, how do we build up this community, this founder network, and really invest in an infrastructure, a virtual infrastructure that works, like resources, things like that, that are sourced from people on the ground doing the work. I think, VELA's vision looking ahead is that sustainable change in education will come from the ground up. We believe that parents should be empowered to lead their children's educational journey, but that also founders should be empowered to deliver dynamic education solutions for families. And so we think that goal is achieved when families embrace a diverse educational landscape, so all of these different options, and confidently take control of their learning journey and really lean into what's out there.
So there will be a VELACon 2025?
I hope so.
We hope so too. We're looking forward to learning
how
more.
much work it is to plan a conference.
Yes, we do. We do. But it's a huge blessing. There's nothing like an in-person experience. From our learning experience, we do hybrid events and we do a lot of online training, but being in person has a different energy and a different learning experience, and the networking that is built out of that really makes all that work so worth it. So I know it was done with excellence. Thank you very much for having us, and I think it was very encouraging and motivating for parents and founders to see the possibilities that lie ahead, and like you said, to find so many people that are on the same boat, thinking similar in similar ways, trying to find solutions. That is not easy to find. Usually a lot of people just follow the crowd, but in VELA you find the people that are leading, that are not following what everybody says, that are questioning, and therefore we are creating new opportunities for learning for our kids. So it's really a solution, and I encourage people to share about VELA, to share this interview with anybody in our community. This interview is being done in English, but you have the subtitles to share it in Spanish. We do focus on the Hispanic community, but VELA, it's all over the United States, supporting different nationalities, different ideas of how learning can happen. So I would like to thank you again, Lauren. Thank you, VELA, for your support, continuous support in our conferences. We look forward to having you back again and sharing maybe about new tools. We'll make a note about the Founder Network app that anybody can download and apply and learn. We're all learning, by the way. There's a new wave of learners and teachers that is arising. So I think there's opportunity and a bright future for the kids that are being born right now and that are at elementary or middle or high school level even, to make a shift and empower them with the proper tools so that they can prosper and bless society. So thank you for sharing this brief interview with me today, Lauren, and I'll hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.